demand, also in the context of tighter monetary policy in many major economies, and the worsening terms of trade will mean less support for the euro area economy. And fourth, uncertainty remains high, as reflected in falling household and business confidence. You have received, I believe, the recto verso pager that I normally circulate around, and this is easily illustrated in this document. These developments have led to a downward revision of the latest staff projections for economic growth for the remainder of the current year, 22, and throughout 23. Staff now expect, as you rightly said, Madam President, the economy to grow by 3.1% in 22, 0.9% in 23, and 1.9% in 24. You have those charts as well, and it compares our June projections with our September most recent staff projection on the recto verso pager that you have with you. Inflation rose further to 9.1% in August. That was the latest reading. Energy and food price inflation remained extremely elevated and were the dominant contributors to overall inflation. Price pressures are spreading across more sectors, in part owing to the impact of high energy costs across the whole economy. Almost half of the items in the inflation basket recorded annual inflation rates above 4% in August, and measures of underlying inflation remain high. While supply bottlenecks have been easing, their inflationary impact continues to gradually feed through consumer prices. Similarly, recovering demand in the services sector is putting upward pressure on prices. The depreciation of the euro has also added to the build-up of inflationary pressures. Looking at the labour market, wage dynamics remained contained so far. However, resilient labour markets and some catch-up to compensate for higher inflation are likely to push up wage growth. Most measures of longer-term inflation expectations currently stand at around 2%. However, signs of recent above-target revisions to some indicators warrant continued monitoring. The baseline inflation projections of the ECB staff have been revised up significantly, as had been the growth projections, except growth was revised downwards, inflation was revised upwards. Annual inflation is now expected to stand at 8% in 22, 5.5% in 23, and 2.3% in 24, which is above our target. The risks to the inflation outlook are primarily to the upside, mainly reflecting the possibility of further major disruptions in energy supplies. While these risk factors are the same for growth, the effect would be on the opposite. They would increase inflation but reduce growth. So what has been the ECB monetary policy? Based on the medium-term inflation outlook, the Governing Council decided to raise the three key ECB interest rates by 75 basis points on top of the 50 basis points that were decided in July. As things currently stand, we expect to raise interest rates further over the next several meetings to dampen demand and guard against the risk of a persistent upward shift in inflation expectations. We will regularly re-evaluate our policy path in light of incoming information and the evolving inflation outlook. Our future policy rate decisions will continue to be data-dependent and follow a meeting-by-meeting approach. As requested by the committee, I will now turn briefly to the issue of fragmentation. Since we embarked on our normalization path in December 2021, we have made clear that we will act should fragmentation risks threaten the even transmission of monetary policy across the whole of the euro area. Since July 1st, 2022, we have been applying flexibility in reinvesting redemptions coming due in the pandemic emergency programme portfolio with a view to countering risks to the transmission mechanism related to the pandemic. Later in July, we also announced a new monetary policy tool, the Transmission Protection Instrument that we call TPI. It will complement our existing tools. It is designed to counter unwarranted, disorderly market dynamics with sufficient flexibility to respond to the severity of the risks facing policy transmission. It will safeguard the singleness of our monetary policy as the Governing Council proceeds on its policy rate normalisation path, helping us ensure price stability over the medium term in line with our mandate. The TPI is subject to a list of eligibility criteria which the Governing Council will use to assess whether a jurisdiction pursues sound and sustainable fiscal and macroeconomic policies. To conclude, the inflation continues to rise across the euro area, affecting citizens in all areas of life. The latest Eurobarometer indicates that almost 2 out of 3 citizens see rising inflation.